Hi guys. Today our learning target is I will locate and name ordered pairs and graph reflections. Your essential question is, what is the important thing to remember with ordered pairs? Take out your journal, write down your learning target and your essential question. Pause the video while you do this. Welcome back. Today our lesson is lesson 2.5, coordinate graphing. In your study of similar figures earlier this year, you used positive number coordinates and arithmetic operations to locate and move points and figures around on the coordinate grid. You can use negative number coordinates to produce a grid that extends in all directions. Look at the handout that you have. It should look just like the graph that you see on the video. Remember, on the coordinate graph, you have an x-axis, which basically is like a horizontal number line that divides the coordinate graph horizontally. You also have a y-axis that is a vertical number line that splits the coordinate graph vertically. Notice the origin of the graph, 0.00, when you're going up the y-axis, your values are increasing, and when you go down from the origin on the y-axis, your numbers are decreasing. And you can see the same thing on the x-axis. If you start at the origin and you move to the right, you can see that you're moving into the positive values of the x-axis, and as you move to the left, you're moving into the negative values. Now our graph is split into 4 parts. We call those parts quadrants. Quadrant 1 is the part of the graph that you've graphed in before in 6th grade. Now we're adding in 7th grade the other 3 parts of the graph. We have quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Now, let's look at the 4 quadrants of the graph and try to determine the signs of the x and y values in each quadrant. If you remember, a coordinate pair is usually written in the form x comma y. And we can graph the coordinate pair on our coordinate graph by looking at the x value and traveling along the x-axis in either a positive or negative direction to find the point. And we can find the y value by traveling up or down the y-axis and finding the appropriate point. So let's look in quadrant 1 and try to determine what will be the sign of the x value in quadrant 1 and what will be the sign of the y value. Okay. Here's quadrant 1, and let's look at any point in quadrant 1. If a point is here in this area, you can see that it must have a positive x value, and if you look at the y values, they're all positive too, so it must have a positive y value. Let's check quadrant 2. I'm going to highlight quadrant 2. You do not have to highlight it on your graph. You can just look at it. There's quadrant 2. Now, let's think about any point that would be in quadrant 2. You can see that if a point's in quadrant 2, It must be in the negative area of the x-axis. So the x value must be negative. Well, what's the y value in quadrant 2? If you said that you think it's positive, you're right. You can see that all the values of y in quadrant 2 are positive. Go ahead and check quadrant 3 and see what you think the values of, or the signs of x and y will be. There's quadrant 3. You should be checking. Write it down if you think you know. Okay, let's go ahead and look. The x values in quadrant 3 is going to have to be negative, and the y value as well is down into the negative area of our y-axis. So any point in quadrant 3 is negative x value and a negative y value. Okay, let's look at the last quadrant. Quadrant 4. Here's quadrant 4. What do you think the sign of the x value in quadrant 4 is going to be? Well, let's take a look. The x value, here's our x-axis. Look, all the values in quadrant 4 are positive. Okay, you're right. And the y values, if you said you thought they were negative, you are also correct. Every point in quadrant 4 has a positive x value and a negative y value. Your homework tonight is to look at the points on the graph that you have, points A through H, determine their coordinates, and write their coordinates in the blanks provided for you. Do your best and come to school prepared on Monday. Good luck. See you then.